So hi, welcome to Noise Podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with,
Danny from Husbands.
and we're going to have some questions to say about the upcoming album, Cuatro. So congrats on that. By the way, how do you feel about the response, the announcement so far?
I feel pretty good about it. It still feels kind of like I'm in the early stages of seeing what people think just with those three songs. But I mean, it feels like people dig the three songs. So just in the small sample size we've had of people who have heard it, also just that we've talked to, it seems like people are stoked on it. So we had fun making it. And yeah, feel good about it and stoked it's coming out next week finally.
Hell yeah, the album
Oh,
is
yeah.
fucking incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all. Thank you. That feels good to hear.
Hell
Not
yeah.
many people have heard it, so it's like I've talked to three people who have heard it, and it's like, all right, well, that's nice. Yeah, feels
Yeah.
good.
So, is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Yeah. So the title, Led Zeppelin, Mac DeMarco, a couple of artists I like, in the past have named their records after where they come in the catalog. So this is our fourth full length. And then Cuatro is just sort of an allusion to me moving to Costa Rica part time with my wife. And also, we've been singing about, moving to Spanish speaking country for a long time in the band. So it's kind of an allusion to that a little bit, just like made it, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what it means.
All right.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
cover art was done by Joe Kappa, who has done our last two before this as well. And I never tell him what to do. I just say, Joe, just do whatever you want, except make it kind of beachy, I guess. So he did that paper mache hand with the four dolphins painted on it with water behind it. And he's always done an incredible job. So it doesn't mean anything beyond just four, I guess.
Fair enough.
Hell yeah. So, did you give Joe the album to like kind of draw inspiration from for the cover art, or was it just, hey, beach, just incorporate that?
It was just Hey Beach. And that's kind of how we've done it every time. I basically, the first time gave him a mood board. Well, actually, the first time was after the Gold Rush. And I just said, I love the characters you do with tiny little teeth because he always draws these guys with tiny teeth.
Yeah.
And I just wanted him to put us on there with tiny teeth. So he did that, like painted this giant painting, which is like in the back of my room there. I don't know if you can see it, but he like right there.
Mhm.
But
Oh, see it. Yeah.
yeah, he painted like this enormous painting, which I didn't know it was enormous because he just sends us this digital file that's a square for the record. But I asked him if I could, get it from him, and he sent it in the mail, and it was this enormous package. But yeah, long answer to say no. I never tell him what to do just because he always does something awesome and better than I would come up with, and it's kind of. I hope he keeps doing it for us just because he's like a home run every time, and it's always kind of different as well. So, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for the album?
Yeah, so this one was kind of similar to all of them, which is, you I'm always doing little sketches on acoustic guitar or with samples or something, and then just scatting melodies over them basically. Um, and then as those demos and song snips build up, they start to sound like something, or it starts to sound like there's enough that are melodically hooky enough, I guess, to build an album around. And for me, what I'm looking for is not like some kind of sonic consistency, because usually I'll retroactively kind of apply some, you know, textures that all match. But I just want melodic hooks, I guess. So as soon as there's enough hooks in the snippets, I'll pick them out of a pile. And this time around, how we'd done it in the past was we have a pile and we just kind of hone those into songs and then pick out of that. But this time around, I picked the songs pretty early on and just focused on those and didn't do additional demos as I was doing those. So once I picked the songs, I pretty much just focused on finishing them just for the sake of efficiency, I guess. And I felt confident in the songs that I picked. So I love doing new nuggets, but I forced myself to not while I was just trying to do the kind of more tedious work of finishing recording and writing lyrics for stuff. And this time around was different also in that this was the first record I did without my songwriting partner, Will, who has been with me since the beginning. And this is the first one without him. So this time around, our drummer and synth player were a lot more involved in the writing process, and our producer as well, who we've used for a handful of songs in the past on our last two records. For this full record, we did all the tracking of the drums at his place, and a lot of synth and guitar and bass. So worked a little more heavily with the producer. So it was similar process for me, but it was different in the people that I was working with. And also one additional difference was this was the first one that I'd done after having a 9 to 5, after quitting my job. The first one that I just had time to fully devote to it. So I think that's why it was easier to get done more quickly. But yeah.
Makes sense. So is your writing process kind of just you're constantly writing like these little nuggets, and then when it's album time you go to them, pick those out and refine them? Because is that kind of what I'm gathering from your answer?
Yeah, pretty much exactly is what it is. I mean, I don't know if the next thing out is going to be an album, but it is always just like pile as many demos as possible whenever inspiration strikes, kind of thing. So, I bought a new tape machine, 4-track tape machine that's been kind of inspiring me lately because it forces me to arrange in a way that I don't normally do when I'm just like throwing things on Ableton. So I try to change like the mediums where it's coming from initially, because, if you just do acoustic all the time, it gets stale, and sample based stuff will help me come up with chords or even guitar parts that I'll retroactively turn samples into guitar parts just because it's easier to come up with something interesting, I guess, with a different medium. So yeah, like for the thing after Cuatro, which I don't know what it is, but I don't know if it'll be an EP or if it'll be a full record. So just kind of building stuff right now. And I guess it depends on how quickly enough comes together. If it takes too long to get an album's worth of stuff, I would be fine with just doing 5 songs that are cool to go. But yeah, that's kind of how it goes.
All right. Makes sense.
All right, makes sense. So what song off this album took the longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
The longest one to write was definitely the very last song on the record, called Sun Dried. It's like the more acoustic, chill song of the bunch. And that song started from 2 different songs. I had a song called Sun Dried and a song called Brushwood. And Brushwood was like from 2014. It was a very old song before our first record even came out. But it had this verse melody that ended up being the outro to Sun Dried. But I could never get those songs to work fully by themselves. And one day I was kind of fiddling around, and they're sort of the same chords. And I just mashed them together, and it's like, oh, that kind of works. And so that one definitely took the longest, just because I was trying so hard to finish those other 2 songs individually for so long, and it never worked. So I left them sitting there for a long time, and then eventually when they combined, it was pretty quick. Mm-hmm. But and also lyrically, it went through a lot of phases about being about different things. And then once I had something, emotional to say in there, because it's kind of a feely song, it was easy to write the lyrics as well. So that song took the longest. And my favorite, maybe Super New China, the first song on the record, just because it's the most recent one that was written for it. And I tend to just like whichever one is the freshest. And that one is, we had a deadline of March or something to turn it in so that it could come out now. And that one happened like way into the wee hours of March. Like the last part of it was the day before I turned it in. So that one just feels the freshest.
Damn. Are you always that like close to the deadline when it comes
to
yeah.
Yeah. If I'm given a deadline, I'll probably, just by the way that I work, not that I couldn't have turned it in without working that far, but it's just, I'll just keep on going unless someone tells me a hard stop. So it probably wouldn't have had an outro if I didn't get it done in time, and it still would have been turned in, but the outro would have sounded different. It's just that I happened to strike something for the outro right before turning it in. So the outro changed a bit to have vocals where it otherwise wouldn't have. But yeah, I'll always go down to the wire with it.
With leaving your 9 to 5 and giving you more time to work on music, has that made like your deadlines harder to hit because you're just able to fuck with it as long as you want? Like there is no other distractions.
Yeah, that is a good question because I mean, like the 9 to 5 in some ways, you feel more creative because you're like creatively stunted, when you're working.
Mhm.
So that when I get home, I'm like ready to go. But when you don't have things holding you back, yeah, you're just like open to getting to do it all the time. And somehow that works against me in some way just because it's like, well, I just woke up. Like even today, I just made my waffle at like 10:30, Not to say I'm not productive once I get up, but stay up later now and um when I have a job, I'm getting up. So, but I do have a job. I work for like a yoga company as the audio engineer, but it's very part time.
Mm.
But all that to say, yeah, it does kind of um, too much freedom is almost a curse sometimes in terms of
Absolutely.
focus. So it was something to adapt to, and I think early on I sort of figured out, okay, I can just be at peace with this new sort of schedule, and but yeah, early on I was kind of floundering a bit, just like, well, just sitting there with a guitar, strumming nothing. But I've learned how to kind of hone that time, and now it's amazing because I got sort of this routine of, do a sketch in the morning, do a sketch in the afternoon, do the business stuff in the middle, kind of thing. So
That's
Gotcha.
yeah,
awesome. Oh yeah.
yeah.
That's good.
How did the tracklist for the album come about? Did you write the opener be the opener, closer be a closer? Did you shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
That's always kind of done in retrospect. I mean, the way we've done it for the past maybe 3 records is we make this private album on Bandcamp, and I throw all the demos on there. And it's really easy to just rearrange them and kind of see them written out, song titles and stuff. So putting them on Bandcamp is kind of a way to envision what it could sound like. And, the question earlier about if Joe heard it before or not,
Mhm.
this last record, he didn't hear it before because it wasn't even close to done, but he did give us the cover kind of way early on. So I was able to just like slap the cover on there and see the songs as they were on there before they were done. And I always find like seeing some form of the final project like motivating for me because it's like, all right, that's a great
Absolutely.
cover. I can just like write to that cover. And
Mhm.
um so yeah, for this one, I think Super New China, once I started working on it, it was late on, and I didn't think we had an opening song yet. So that one I did kind of envision to be the opening song of the record. And the last one is kind of again, the sentimental feely one. And it's also different textures, which is harder to fit in the middle of an album, but sometimes you're like forgiven for um, varying from the textures at the end of it. I a lot of records I love, the last song's always kind of the outlier a little bit. So
Mhm.
it felt natural to put that at the end. And then in the middle, it was just mostly about the flow. And narratively, it does kind of follow the beginning half is sort of about just being free from the 9 to 5, just enjoying life and figuring that out. And then the second half is kind of about after realizing Will was not going to be in the band. Those kind of fall into that sort of just navigating, the changing of the band dynamic and that relationship. We're still buds, but great friends, but just kind of, feeling emotions about that. So the last half is a lot about that.
All right, makes
Gotcha.
sense.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So, would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
It felt like there were a little more stakes on this record because it was our first time with a team behind us. We never toured. We started touring maybe late 2021 or something. We didn't play shows in front of people outside of Oklahoma City till relatively recently. And we also didn't have management behind us, but this was the first record we had management. There was a booking guy. We had shows. We'd already played a couple shows, between touring and starting this record. So it just felt like I wanted it to deliver for everybody we were working with. So, and I don't think that's a good way of working necessarily, but it was just the first time. So I was just kind of getting used to it not being just my own personal slash, collaborative creative project. So um, I think next time around, I'm going to know what that feels like and know how to just like shut it out. But this time, that was always on my mind. It's like, is this going to deliver for the people we're working with?
Mhm.
So in terms of that, my headspace was kind of thinking about that a lot. At the same time, I mean, I've written songs since I was in 7th grade, and it's always been something I do, as a um, just way of decompressing. So I still was at peace writing the music. It's just I guess after I got out of the zone and went back into just thinking about it and how it was going to be. It was a little more, a little more crunching and neuroses going around. But I'm also, super stoked to be not working my normal job. So I've been in a pretty good headspace since quitting that as well. So just those
Mhm.
kinds of things floating around in my head, I guess.
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
And because you now have that added pressure, it's not just you anymore. Did that push you to do things that maybe you wouldn't usually do? Did that help you at all, or was that more of kind of like added stress factor?
I think it pushed me. I kind of wanted to do this a little bit anyways, but I know this definitely was an extra push to do it. But I just wanted every song to be really big sounding
Mhm.
and big choruses and just to be like banger after banger kind of thing, whether
Mhm.
it succeeded or not, that was kind of the goal, just like bangers only kind of album.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas normally, I'd allow myself to do a chill, groovy thing or something, or just let the tempo and dynamics flow a little bit, not more naturally, but just if ever I was working on a slower song, I'd be like, I need to amp this up. Whereas if I wasn't doing that, I don't know if I would have felt the need to amp it up if I wasn't considering, if I didn't have this bangers only mindset, which I think I had because I just wanted to only do that this time, just to swing for the fences, I guess, on this one. So I think it made me sort of amplify, and I hope it was. I enjoy this record, so I have no regrets from it, and I think it just made it what it is, and I'm stoked for what it became.
Mhm.
And also, every time we finish something, the next thing we want to be a little bit different, and this one I think is different from our last record. Um, so that being said, I think our next record will probably be a lot chiller, weirder, or something. I
Yeah.
feel like it's but yeah, I do think it affected it in some way.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds good. Makes sense.
So how do you recommend your fans
Yeah,
to listen to this
yeah.
album for the first time? Should you do it in the car with friends, in dark with headphones on? Is workout album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
I think all of those work, and the only thing that I would hope is that, like, from start to finish, at least once start to finish, and then pick the ones you like and do what you want with it. But whenever, at least, and I only say that because that's how I like to listen to just kind of get the full statement from the artist, do the start to finish thing. The first time I listened to it, so I guess I would say the only thought I would have on that is like not to pick and choose within it, but just like let it go from beginning to end, and then after that, do listen to it however you want, wherever you want.
Fair enough.
For sure.
Yeah.
This one should be super, super quick off top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
Ooh. Okay.
Hmm.
Big,
Okay.
um, emotional,
Hmm.
and crunchy.
Crunchy. Fuck
Crunchy.
yeah.
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 All right.
I love it.
Yeah.
So can you talk about any particularly challenging or standout moments from the creation of this album, positive or negative?
Yeah, positive. I think working with Chad and our drummer and our synth slash guitar player more in a more active role this time around was very positive. It's inspiring to be in a cool studio with amazing instruments and gear all around you, which we used a lot of in the recordings. And every time I'm with Chad, our producer, I just learn new things about music production or even just mindsets with studio workflows and engineering kind of things. So that was positive just because I got to spend more time with him than we normally do. And then negative, I guess, it would just be kind of the natural feelings that come with losing a songwriting partner. Will and I are
Mm.
still great friends. And the reasons he's not in the band are great reasons of just new job and new kid and just life commitments. He started a new venue in OKC, so he's doing awesome and doing cool things. Um, that was just like a thing to get used to. So um, yeah, that would just be kind of the sort of minds. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good. All right. So for this question, I want you to picture you're on tour. You're at a gas station for a rest stop. You're going in. What is your snack of choice?
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it depends on the time of day and if I'm driving or not.
Okay.
If I'll do the late drives most often when we're on tour. So if it's like one of the times where we play a show and we're going to go 3 hours to the next place so that we can make it the next day after a long drive, I'll get like a giant vanilla Coke
Hmm.
and maybe some pickle sunflower seeds to just occupy my mind.
Ooh.
And I'll blast, music to the. I think our band has headphones, so I hope I'm not like keeping them up. But sometimes I've heard that I like keep them up when I'm doing it, but I have to just because I'm trying to like not kill us all by falling asleep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do love like a good sunflower seed soda combo on the
Mhm.
road. If it's daytime, we usually bring a bunch of snacks in the car, so I'll just take one
That's
of
good.
those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So on the topic of food, if the band was a dish, what dish would the band be and why?
Oh man. Well, this is not interesting, but I think it would just be pizza. I mean, I think that's like a very easy answer, but I think our music is pretty straightforward and it's like just straight guitar kind of music. It's just I don't want to call it bread and butter indie because I think we have our own voice and stuff, but at the same time, it's like palatable and my favorite food. And so I'd just say pizza, pepperoni pizza with ranch, maybe.
Perfect.
Let's say with a side of
Ooh.
ranch that you're dipping in. So yeah,
All right, we'll
Damn
yeah,
take
right.
that's what we
Hell
do.
yeah.
Yeah,
So for these last couple questions, we're actually going to shift away from music, if that's okay with you.
yeah, totally.
Awesome. So we're actually going to go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what
Oh,
would your last meal be with a drink?
okay.
Mhm.
Well, it would be pizza. It would be. You guys have Mazio's where you're from?
It
Mazio's
does
Pizza.
not sound familiar.
No.
Yeah, it's not even that popular here. It's like it's a chain that's kind of regional to Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, but I've been every Friday night when I was a kid was like pizza night, so we'd always get Mazio's. So it's my favorite. It remains my favorite. So it would be a
Of course, yeah.
large pepperoni thin crust Mazio's pizza with ranch, with jalapeno on it as well. Um, I would do, I guess, a Coke float with Bluebell ice cream.
Bluebell.
But
Damn right.
before I had that, because that would be at the end, I'd have like a 6 pack of um, Coors Banquet, I guess, as
Yeah.
well. It's my last meal, so I might as well
Yeah.
feel good while I'm doing it. So I think that would be it: is a large pepperoni jalapeno Mazio's pizza with ranch, Coors Banquet, Coke float. That's what I do.
Damn right.
Sounds
Damn
good.
right.
So if you could live in one fiction world for a week, where would you live?
Oh shoot.
Mhm.
Well, two come to mind, and it's definitely between these two, but it would be Middle Earth in the Shire in a Hobbit hole. I had this pop folk project before Husbands where like half the songs were about Lord of the Rings and
That's
mostly
awesome.
like the Shire aspect of it. So it's all flutes and stuff like that. So either the Shire or probably this one is what I would really say is just Harry Potter. That's sort of in the real world, but if Hogwarts existed, I would love to be a student there and do the wizard stuff. So yeah, I
Absolutely.
think Harry Potter world.
Do you know what house you are?
um, it would be between Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff, I think. Hufflepuff gets a bad rap, but I think, the general dispositions of people in that house, I am similar to. So I'd like to think I'm Ravenclaw, but I don't actually like studying and I'm not as brainy as I'd like to think. So I think I would be a Hufflepuff and I'd be totally chill with that.
Yeah.
All right.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I have the honor of asking the last question. Every single person we've spoken to has actually said it is the most important question.
Oh, shoot.
What is your favorite color?
Oh, all right. Yeah. Very important.
Of course.
It's changed over the years, but right now it definitively is some form of aqua turquoise blue. So
Ooh.
like Caribbean blue. I'll call it Caribbean blue
Mm-hmm.
because Enya's got that song called Caribbean Blue. So it's like there is a proper noun for that color. And that's what I love. I just love the color of shallow water, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
It's
my favorite
beautiful.
color. Used to
Yeah,
be green.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So as Gloria said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
I guess I'd like to plug that we're going on tour through the East, starting in like 2 weeks, playing ACL this weekend, and then practicing some new songs. We have to learn how to play some new songs in a couple weeks after that. So if you're in the East or Chicago and West and kind of into the South a little bit, check out our tour dates and also listen to our new record. and that's pretty much it.
Oh yeah. All right.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for listening. It's been Danny from Husbands, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.